Today we are reacting to a lady whose boyfriend of 5 years turned out to be an undercover agent who was sent to spy on her organisation.
To comprehend what it is that you and these other women have been through, let's just go back, though, to that time when you first met him, you first met Mark, and what was going on in your life and how he came to be a part of it.
I was a school teacher, English and Media Studies teacher, which is how I came to have that much video footage, had a video camera. I was a member of a campaigning group in Hackney. We were campaigning about anti-racism, anti-fascism, sort of things you're supposed to be against. And one day he turned up at a meeting accompanied by somebody who'd met him at a demonstration, and he said he was interested in what we were doing.
Did you think at any point...
Ah yes, the good old British police, needing to spy on people who are trying to stop racism. One of the most important endeavours. You know, we must make sure that the racism continues. That is the official position of the British police.
...you were campaigning against were so out there that you needed undercover police, like, were the things that you were doing would be against the law or the sort of thing that would gain that sort of attention from the police?
If you're political and you're involved in political activity, particularly on the left, most people kind of thought there were undercover police at demonstrations, maybe even at public meetings, monitoring, keeping an eye. No one expected that they were going to be in your bed and having short-term sexual, intimate relationships. So, no, I don't think anyone thought that.
It's kind of crazy, right? Because you would assume that would be illegal, right? Like, I always thought that would be illegal. Like, I was sure that they couldn't actually do that, you know, because it's not real, right? It's artificial. They're artificially putting themselves in a position with fake identities. Surely you would think that would be an illegal thing to do, but I guess not. I guess not. I guess I assume wrong.
The term legitimate relationship. I mean, you fell kind of head over heels for him. He moved into your house. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we were together for 5 years.
Yeah.
He was completely integrated into my life and my family. And what you see, again, from those videos, he was one of the family. It was a...
I mean, 5 years is wild, right? I mean, this guy definitely put in special requests to do this job. This was clearly like a, who wants to do the job where you get to go have a secret life for 5 years, with another woman, you got a wife and kids. I mean, it's hilarious. It's hilarious that even exists as a role in the police department, but there you go. That British policing, splendid.
Children, and upsetting and distressing though that story is for me on a personal level, and was certainly when I first found out, I'm not the only one. What we know is that there are more than 60 women to whom this has happened, probably more. And it wasn't,
Yeah, right, because if they say 60, right, that's the 60 that decided to make it public, right? I mean, how many people must they have actually done this to over this? I think this was back in the 90s that this happened, right? How much must this have happened? That is... 60, because 60 is by the way, of the people who found out. Like, this lady was never told, like, hey, by the way, sorry, like, we've kind of been playing you for 5 years. Like, she found out by herself, like, right? So that's 60 people who even found out. And then forget the people who, just choose not to even come forward, of the ones who did find out. That's wild that is even a legal thing to do, or was. I guess we'll find out.
Beginning that this was a rogue officer. And what we can see really clearly now is that this was systemic.
So when did it start to unravel then? When did you start to get suspicious?
Not until after he left. They're professional liars. They're trained, they're funded by taxpayers. We pay for this work. They have proper false passports, false national insurance numbers.
You found a credit card, though, in the coat, didn't you?
Right.
But he somehow managed to just explain that away. What happened?
Yeah, he went out one morning to get breakfast, and I thought there was something he was keeping from me. I didn't think it was this, but I thought that he maybe was involved in a group that I wasn't involved in, and I didn't know. And I looked for it. Doesn't reflect that well, but I looked in his jacket that he left behind, and I found a bank card, and it was in a different name. It was in the name of M. Jenner. And when he came back, I was like, what is this? And he said, I bought it off a bloke in a pub. It was stolen. I'm an idiot. I shouldn't have done it. And like, I was a teacher. What do I know about buying stolen credit cards?
I mean, okay, like let's be reasonable. Let's be reasonable. You know, people usually don't buy fake IDs in names that are not their own. You know, usually, and also, what value could a fake ID possibly have to someone who is above the age of 18, right? So, I mean, come on. I mean, you gotta have some sort of instincts here, right? Obviously, this is not her fault, right? This is not her fault, but, I mean, come on. I mean, the guy had a fake ID in someone else's name. You should probably have had some... You probably should have questioned that a bit more than, oh, well, I guess you just have a fake ID for no reason in someone else's name. I mean, the only other thing that could be for is criminal, right? He's either lying to you about who he is, or he's a criminal, right? Who's trying to use it for criminal purposes. Both of which are good reasons to, you know, like, cease the whole thing. But, okay, benefit of the doubt. Maybe she was thoroughly tricked by a genius. Fair enough.
Yeah.
So he said, I'm an idiot. Please never tell anyone. Please, I'm going to cut. I then cut it up. And that was it. And I didn't think about it again until after he left. And when he left, with a note on the table, it was like, that's not how you leave a 5-year relationship, not in my world. No. So I need to make sense of that and to do...
That is the particular class that the British Police Department does have. It's, you know, a note on the table to end a 5-year relationship. That is true British class right there.
Who knew him. That took me to looking in my address book for his grandfather's number. That was really hard scribbled out.
Because you were supposed to go and visit his grandfather. That was the one bit of family tie that you were actually supposed to go and see him. And then on the day, he just managed to say, oh, no, he's got the dates wrong. That's not right.
It became apparent that he didn't want to be found. And if someone doesn't want to be found, then that makes me ask questions like, why? What's going on?
So you've done...
The only thing that makes me question this in any way is... Like, surely you would expect him to have friends or, like, family, or in 5 years you didn't meet a single friend, a single family member, nothing, right? Because if this is a completely fake identity, I mean, surely this wouldn't work, right? I understand that this is, I guess this has been verified and stuff, but that doesn't really make much sense, does it, right? 5 years... that he was with her, 5 years as a full-on relationship, and the whole time he had a wife and kids separately, and you never met a single one of his friends or a single family member, never even questioned that. That's pretty weird, right? That you didn't question anything. It's not her fault. It's definitely not her fault. But you didn't question anything, not even a little bit. I mean, come on, common sense.
Yeah. You've become the sort of, as part of this group, to try and work out what it is that he was doing. It was about 25 years. Do you know, what more do you know about him now?
Well, I know quite a lot more about him now, but in a way, it's not that I don't want to answer that question, because I think a lot of that is in the documentary that I hope people will watch. But it's not about him. You know, he was part of a machine, if you like. He had managers. There was a back office. There was a manual that told them how to manage this deceit. And so what we found out about the whole unit is that they were hoovering up intelligence on everybody who was involved in a progressive movement. This wasn't about prosecuting people. This wasn't about putting people through the criminal justice system. This was about simply surveying. It's like the Stasi. I mean, it's not, you know, I don't want to be hyperbolic. I don't want to be alarmist. No. But it is akin to the Stasi. They have... you know, people will say, like, why you? What were you doing? And actually, it's like, they were doing it to everybody. They were anyone who was, if you're in CND, if you're in the anti-apartheid movement, if you're in the Socialist Workers' Party, which, you know,
aren't
is a left-wing group,
society,
but they're like a placard.
Yeah.
They make placards.
You have to wonder if they were doing this to the right wing too. You know, was this specifically targeted to this, or was it sort of a thing they did to all political, I guess, groups at the time? Because I think at this time there was a lot of stuff going on with the IRA. Like, basically, there was a lot of politically motivated bombings and things in the UK. So, if they were doing it to everyone, you kind of understand it, right? Because things were getting blown up in the UK. Things were not great at this time. I think it was this time when that was happening. And so you kind of understand why they would need to keep a close eye on political groups. Obviously, this is way too far. This is insane. Especially the reason this is so crazy is because the same thing could have been achieved without the whole relationship for 5 years apart, right? Like, you can use undercover officers in a way that doesn't ruin someone's life. You can do it in a normal way. Like, you don't have to do it in this way. So that's the terrible part about it, is it could have just been done it could have just been friends with them, and you would have found out the same information. So that's obviously where it goes crazy. But I do wonder if it was just the left wing, or if it was both, because I know at the time, I mean, I think there was definitely a need for, supervision of political groups at that time.
And it basically happened to all these different women. You think there's around 60 women.
Yeah.
And it was all very, very similar, wasn't it?
Yeah.
There was always a chap who had a van, who could go to the movements. They always left with a letter that's been written. But you were quite lucky in the fact that your life moved on and you moved forward and your circumstances changed. But there are other women that actually never went on to have children, and their lives were really turned upside down and ruined.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, there have been women who have had children with undercover police officers, and people are rightly horrified by that. But I think something that we don't look at so much is the women who've had their most fertile years stolen from them and lost the opportunity.
That is wild, because they really are ruining people's lives at that point with this, right? Like, when you think obviously the type of people who are involved in these sort of political things are usually, 20s, 30s. So it is the years you would be, finding someone, having kids, settling down. It is those years that you are taking from them, which is wild that they even would consider that. Like, if she was 30 and this guy was with her for 5 years, that might have been literally the end of her chances of ever having kids, right? And I mean, it is literally the British government who is taking that from them for really no reason, right? Like she said, none of this led to any arrests or anything. It was just to gather information. And it could have just, the information could have been easily attained, not using relationships. They could have just done it with friendships. Crazy, right? I mean, surely they would have the power to get these people, these undercover agents, into places of power in these groups without, just like putting them in leadership roles in these groups. I mean, surely that would be an equally or even better option, right? Just crazy that. I mean, you would think there would be massive payouts over this. I don't really think we do that in the UK, though. Like in America, if you get sentenced wrongly to prison for 20 years and then they let you out, you can, sue them and, get loads of money off them, millions. I don't think we have that in the UK. I think if they let you out in the UK, they just go, yeah, what can you do? Sorry. I think that's really what they do in the UK. They're just well, nothing we can do about it now. Have a good life. I mean, it is crazy, but that is kind of what they do. So, I mean, I guess maybe they don't really get any retribution for any of this, really.
Because of those years, and also because they've had their trust so fundamentally undermined. And what we're seeing is that the unit and the police, it was the Met Police, were institutionally misogynistic and sexist. Women were used either as props to shore up these men's fake identity. I was a trusted individual. People would have assumed that because he was in my life so much, my family life, that I'd probably met his family. They were either used as props or they were specifically targeted because they were, I'm not talking about myself here so much, but they were, very competent strong activists who were targeted to be derailed and undermined, so their activity was undermined.
We've got some rights to reply, which we have to offer. This is from the CPS. We wholly sympathise with the plight of those who unknowingly entered into deceptive relationships. Each case is decided on its own facts, and having carefully reviewed evidence provided by police in relation to allegations against undercover officers, we concluded our legal test for prosecution was not met in this case for any criminal offences. This is the Met Police Deputy Assistant Commissioner, John Saville. I'd like to apologise again unreservedly for the significant harm and distress caused to the women who were deceived into sexual relationships by undercover officers. These relationships were abusive, deceitful, manipulative and wrong. While it should have been obvious to all undercover officers that sexual relationships were unacceptable, the Met failed to make this clear and provide training and guidance.
Oh, well, there you go. Literally exactly what I just said. I mean, there's Britain for you. Well, you know, don't worry, guys. We investigated ourselves and we have found out that we were innocent. I mean, can you believe that? That's like suing yourself and being like, you know what, I found no damages. What the fuck? I mean, the fact they even get to investigate themselves is pretty hilarious. I mean, there should probably be someone else, you know, investigating whether you did it wrong, not you investigating whether you did anything wrong. But there you go. That's Britain. Sorry, no big deal. I guess we'll just move on. Big whoop. I mean, that's literally what they say. Anyway, yeah, that's it. Pretty crazy. Yeah, see you tomorrow.